The early weigh-in podcast is back, and Ty, UFC Vegas 11 this weekend, Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. Man, that's such a fight we've been looking forward to, breaking down for everybody, but the other 13 fights on this card are just as good.
I'm really excited about it. When I first looked at the card, I was kind of thinking that the prelims were pretty subpar, but after really digging into them, I'm extremely excited about it.
Oh, yeah, man, I am too, and from top to bottom, great fights, and a super good night of fights last weekend as well. We got our third event in a row being positive, so if you're tailing our picks, you're definitely making some money right now, but not the best fight. It was the first fight to start it off, but, man, I called that Sabina Mazo head kick. I mentioned in the last podcast we saw her knock out a couple girls in LFA with it, and she threw it the whole fight, and it finally landed late in that third round after a fight we thought she was losing.
I mean, just to touch on that a little bit more, I thought Justine Kish looked really good. I was surprised with how she came out.
She did look good, and then I know we were looking forward to Alexander Romanov finally making that debut.
Straight bully, dude. I mean, whenever I saw... who was he fighting?
Freaking Rocky Martinez or something.
Whenever I saw Martinez weigh in, I was like, man, well, this is one guy that he's not going to body lock and pick up. He just that slammed
him. But I know I made a joke about it. Martinez, I don't even think they weighed the boy, man. There's no way he weighed 265 pounds in there.
He looked all of 320 in there.
And then we had Kevin Kroom come out there and shock the world, man. Landed that right straight to the body and then the left hook over that just, buckled Roosevelt's knees. And he snatched up that ninja choke, that little modified guillotine quick.
We never got to talk about the Kroom fight, but I would have never picked him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not at all, man. And then, Sajara Eubanks with a massive upset. That's a couple girls, in the past couple weeks that have had big upsets.
Right. It's I'm starting to get to the point where I don't feel comfortable betting on any girl fights, especially when it's 2 or 3 to 1 dogs.
Yeah, I know, man. And Billy Q came out there, got the job done like we thought he would. Bobby Green by decision like we always do. But that Ed Herman, man, take it away.
Yeah, that Ed Herman fight. I had picked Ed Herman to win, but definitely not like that. We're kind of split on we're not sure if it's if it's cheating or if it's a smart move.
Yeah, I personally think almost every fighter on the roster probably would have taken advantage of that situation. Maybe not have sold the groin shot.
He shouldn't have grabbed the cup
as he did, but the ref stopped that fight, and he's not going to vocalize that he's hurt and lose that fight. An Ed Herman 20-fight UFC vet, that win bonus could be pretty nice.
Yeah, and that's some vet experience showing right
For
there.
Sure. We saw Roxy get the big underdog win the time I decided not to play her when she's already beaten the girl in the first place, And
again, it's one of those ones where Roxy was not supposed to win it, and she comes out with a dub. I'm sure she'll be the favorite her next fight and lose it terribly.
Ottman, Isatar, man, another first-round finish. I cashed big on that one, actually. I played him in the first round. I didn't think Worthy's chin was just going to be able to hold up to it.
I was a little sketch about that fight. I stayed off of it, but really impressed with Ottman. That Moroccan takeover is real.
It is, and the main event, that's the one where we're real split on. I personally think Angela Hill maybe got the job done. Maybe a little bit more active, but not as technical with her strikes. And Karate Hottie really utilized the push kicks, the front kicks really well, like she does in all her fights.
How I see it is, you don't want to go to a decision with a point fighter like Michelle Watterson. That's what she does.
Absolutely. So we finished, I think, just a little over a unit positive or something. Maybe not quite, but we sprinkled a unit. We mixed it up there between trying to get a finish on the Roxy fight and the Sajara fight. Didn't happen, but we bet big on the Billy Q fight and Kyle Nelson under 2.5, and of course that hit, man. That was nice. So 3 winning events in a row. If $100 bettors are up over 700 now, so hopefully fourth event in a row, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think we got some good picks for it too.
We do, man. And I know we're actually back and forth on a couple of these, so it should be fun to break down. First fight of the night, we have Tyson Nam, who's 19-11, taking on the newcomer in Jerome Rivera, who's 10-2, and we just saw Tyson Nam almost make it through the fight week until Matt Schnell had the weight issues and got pulled. We now see Nam fighting at 35 in this fight, probably because 38 years old and just was in the middle of a cut when his opponent got pulled. So don't see him making 125 really easily just a week later at 38 years old. But with the Hawaiian there, 36, yeah.
But still is crazy old for flyweights.
For starting your UFC debut just a year ago when you're already 36, getting a late jump in the UFC. But with Tyson Nam, you kind of know what you're going to get, man. It's a low volume, heavy handed Hawaiian striker. Has a lot of finishes to be in flyweight, so has had some exciting fights, but in my opinion, I don't really know if Tyson Nam is UFC level, and if he is, he's on the bottom tier of the flyweight division. Where we had Jerome Rivera just successful in the Contender Series, and he didn't get a contract, but when you're 10-2 and young, that's why you stay ready like that, because you could get the call just like that. And I know he probably had plans to come back to the Contender Series or something, but you're never going to turn that short notice fight down. It's a UFC call. You're absolutely going to take it. This guy's huge for flyweight, man. He's big. I don't have the exact size down, but I know he's a couple inches bigger than Tyson Nam height-wise. And he's 11 years younger, so I like to think the athleticism and stuff is more to his part. Spent some time in LFA, which I mention over and over again is my favorite organization under the UFC to breed young talent and stuff. Great submissions on the mat. And one thing I can't go without mentioning with Jerome Rivera, I don't know if you watched his highlights, but have you seen his arm injury that he had?
No.
So a guy is backing him up against the fence, and he literally puts it out to stop himself, and it just dislocates in like the fight gets stopped in under a minute, and his arm is just... It was worse than that arm break on the Contender Series a couple weeks ago. It was nasty. So something you absolutely got to look up. Jerome Rivera, I think he can make this fight interesting. I just think he's probably going to be outclassed on the feet here. Tyson Nam's the much better striker here and got the experience on him. I'm going to lean with Tyson Nam, probably by decision. I think the young buck's going to be there for 15 minutes.
So I don't mind that take at all, honestly. You touched on Jerome Rivera being 11 years younger than Tyson Nam. He's also got a 4.5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. Yeah. So he is going to be huge in there. And him being a 125er as well, I feel like Tyson Nam and him might match up relatively well at bantamweight. That size might not be as big of a factor. You mentioned Tyson Nam, kind of like that low-volume Hawaiian puncher. He is. I mentioned this on the last podcast, but he lands 3 strikes per minute and absorbs 6.
Yeah, Hawaiian, man.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to play into his favor, especially with somebody who's 25 years old. I'm curious to see how Rivera's cardio holds up, especially at short notice. I also have Nam getting this done, although I'm not confident on it at all, so I wouldn't pick him.
I'm really not too confident as well. I don't see myself playing this fight at all. I see Tyson Nam being better on the feet, Jerome Rivera being better on the mat. If it gets there, he uses his length really, really well on the mat when it comes to his submissions. And if Tyson Nam did make a mistake, we could see him capitalize on some kind of choke or something. So my money's off of this one, but this is definitely a step down in competition maybe for Nam from after his first 2 UFC fights with like Kai Car France and stuff. This is definitely back to the level of Tyson Nam's used to fighting. So I think he comes out with a decision win here.
I agree with you there. Moving on, we have a featherweight bout between Derek Minner, who's 24-11, and TJ Laramie, who's 12-3. From what I've seen, a lot of people are picking Laramie. I'm just not sold on him yet. Derek Minner, he's got 21 wins by submission. I think you mentioned he has 9 losses by submission. By submission as well. So that could be a problem, but that's his bread and butter. So he's going to be comfortable on the ground. And the fights that I've seen him in, he fought Herbert Burns, who's a BJJ world champion. He's not going to be able to implement any submission game on him. And then he goes and fights Grant Dawson, who comes in 4.5 pounds overweight and 12-1 entering that fight. Those are tough. Those are tough. So I can't really judge his UFC career on that yet. I have high hopes for him. He's coming into this fight significantly taller than TJ Laramie and a 5-inch reach advantage. I really think that's going to play into his wheelhouse, him being 1 on the feet, bigger and longer, and then 2, he's comfortable off his back. Whereas TJ Laramie, he's coming in. When I watched his Contender Series fight, he was fighting Daniel Swain, and he was able to control him, but he almost got caught like 5 or 6 times in some submissions. And it seems like although TJ Laramie is comfortable being inside the guard and landing that ground and pound, he opens himself up for submissions, and I could really see Minner with his experience taking advantage of that and finding something.
For sure, man. So the minus 250 price tag on TJ Laramie, absolutely way too much for a green prospect fresh off the Contender Series with, in my opinion, super basic striking. It's pump the jab, land the right hand when you can, and outside of that, he's chasing the takedown, man. he has been 5 rounds. He's held a belt in a minor organization. He's defended it and stuff. So we've seen him go 5 rounds, where we have not seen the case for Darrick Minner. But yeah, I mean, between his 21 submissions and 9 submission losses, that's 30 fights right there that don't go the distance. He's super, super strong on the mat, and that's what will kind of worry me with TJ Laramie, because he's a little bit undersized. I mentioned earlier, I thought TJ Laramie really could maybe work with the UFC PI, get the weight under control, and really make a home at 35. He reminds me of Cody Stamann a whole lot. The body style and everything. I really think he could really find a good home at 135. But nevertheless, man, I love these Contender Series guys taking the quick turnaround, trying to get their name in the UFC. The one thing that I really like about Minner, he throws a hard leg kick, man. Super, super hard leg kick, but he loads up on it. It's almost telegraphed a little bit, and TJ Laramie's got some very, very good wrestling, and being the smaller guy, he really does enjoy tripping up the legs, shooting on the single leg, double leg, and getting a trip there. And I think as Darrick Minner is going to throw one of these leg kicks, I think we're going to see the shorter Laramie be able to snatch the leg up and turn it into a takedown. I think Laramie probably is going to lay and prey on him for probably the second and third round. I could really see Minner's strength and stuff coming out here and getting it done in the first round. But I think as it progresses, I think TJ Laramie's got the better cardio and maybe the more technical wrestling to get the job done.
So I agree with those points. But another thing that I didn't get to touch on, TJ Laramie's 22 years old, where Darrick Minner's 30 going into his athletic prime, especially for the UFC. So I really do see TJ Laramie, having a silly mistake, a young mistake, and getting caught.
We don't really see it have too much success in the UFC very much, and facing a vet, who's double, triple his fights right there, it's the $250 price tag is way too much for me to ever play this fight.
And like I said, seeing him get caught in so many close submission, he almost got caught in plenty of those against that Derek Swain fight. I just think Darrick Minner's level is just above Swain's, and if that's the case, he's gonna get caught.
Yeah.
So I lean towards Darrick.
I know at like a plus 240 or something like that, it's really not a bad play if you feel Darrick Minner's gonna win that fight.
Right, and I personally, I'll be putting a little sprinkle on it. Nothing crazy, because they both are kind of inconsistent, and I'm just not too familiar with TJ Laramie if he's really that caliber.
Yeah.
So
both wrestling heavy attacks that, and sometimes you see negate each other and have a boring striking fight. So I'm really at a toss up of what I see is going to happen there.
And if it does, that 5-inch reach advantage for Minner, I think really might come into play.
Absolutely. Man, next fight is Andre Ewell, who's 16-6, fighting Erwin Rivera, who's 10-5. I'm just going to start off by saying, maybe don't hold the opinion of everybody else, but this is a bad matchup for Rivera stylistically wise. But at the same time, there's no upside for Andre Ewell in this fight, in my opinion. He is way higher ranked. He's fought Cheeto, Nathaniel Wood, where Erwin Rivera is fighting Al Kaisi and stuff. It's better competition. You're probably, around the 20 to 25, where Erwin Rivera is sitting, on just getting his UFC call. He has a loss or two and he's on his way out. So not much upside for Ewell to win this fight. It's almost like he is taking it because he thinks it's going to be an easy one for him. And Erwin Rivera's as tough as it gets. I don't see him getting a finish this fight, but Erwin Rivera, he lacks the footwork. He's real flat-footed, but he lacks the footwork to keep up with Andre Ewell in this fight. Andre Ewell has losses, like I touched on, to Cheeto Vera and Nathaniel Wood, people with much, much better footwork than you see Erwin Rivera ever throw. And another guy likes to load up on his shots, has a good left hook, good body kick. But if Andre Ewell does what he can, man, I feel like the ceiling was super high for him, and he's just not performed to that level yet. But if he comes in and does what I've seen him do in his other fights, man, I really do think he outpoints him for 15 minutes.
And I wouldn't doubt that at all. His UFC wins to date are 2 by split decision and 1 by unanimous decision. So maybe you're right. Maybe he is looking at this as like a fight that maybe he could get a finish and get the ball rolling, and kind of get out of this, I say slump. He's winning, but he's not winning convincingly. And then, that Nathaniel Wood fight, I watched that because I thought that's the only other guy that he's fought that's, 5'6" on that shorter side. And even Nathaniel Wood, with the better footwork, the better stand-up, had a lot of trouble closing that distance that first round. And Ewell's going to be coming in here with a 7-inch reach advantage. I mean, that's
huge for the style of fight that he plays.
Right. And really, Irwin, his way of closing distance is a huge overhand left. And I don't think that Ewell's going to get caught with it. But if that does happen, that's the only way I see Rivera getting the dub is a kind of a haymaker overhand left, and he could sleep Ewell. But
right. So with the likes of Giga, Chikadze, and stuff on the resume there for Irwin Rivera, he's coming into the UFC and he's not fighting really bad competition, honestly. But we've seen him have trouble with good kickboxers and stuff like that. And I think Andre Ewell, not the technicality that Giga has, but stylistically, a long rangey kickboxer that Irwin's had some trouble with. But Andre Ewell does have a couple third-round losses, man. So if he gets out there and blows his wad and can't get the finish like he thinks he can, Irwin Rivera might have a little interesting third round.
Yeah, and, I was with you on the level of competition, like the Al Quasi fight. Like, yeah, it's not what he should be fighting necessarily. But of his last 4 opponents, they've got a combined record of 36-10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's facing legitimate competition and doing really well against them. Although I did think he lost that Ali fight. I bet.
Yeah, I know we were on Al that one.
Yeah. Another thing about Rivera that kind of works into his favor is he's training with the Black Zillions. He has Henry Hooft as a striking coach, so possibly they've come up with a game plan to try and close that distance. I do think that if Rivera closes that distance and gets a hold of him, he's going to be the stronger person in the clinch.
Of the two, for sure.
Yeah, and that's mostly just because Ewell's so tall and lanky.
Right.
So,
what you got on this one?
I didn't even pick a person. This is another one that I'm kind of staying away from. I think that I'm going to lean towards Ewell, but at a -185, I wouldn't play it.
Yeah, so for me, I actually I put Andre Ewell in a parlay stylistically. I think it's just a good fight for him. The 185, though, is something too big for me to bet straight up. I like it in a parlay. I'm pretty confident on Andre Ewell to get the job done on Saturday, but I think we can both agree doesn't probably get the finish.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next fight. This one we're both really excited about. Journey Newson, who's 9-1, versus Randy Costa, who is 5-1. Little fun fact about Randy Costa: in his 5 wins, they have a total combined time of under 5 minutes, and that's the biggest
question mark,
yeah. Right? Can he make it out of the first round and produce? Where we've only seen him make it out of the first round one time against Brandon Davis, and he got subbed. That being said, Brandon Davis, he was 160 pounds coming into that fight at bantamweight, and also Costa's leg was compromised really early in that fight, and I don't think that we got to see the same striking that he would have liked to have implemented in that fight. That being said, Randy Costa is one of the most exciting fighters I've ever seen.
That first round is nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Agapog pace,
Right. He brings it to him, and he's got so much power at 135. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. And before this fight, I didn't really know much about him, but now I'm a huge fan. I'm kind of on that Costa train,
good
man.
Stuff.
But with Journey Newson, I watched his fight with Domingo Pilarte, which was overturned because of marijuana use. But in that fight, he KO'd Domingo, and I noticed one of his biggest faults is that he keeps his left hand so low, which is going to be the worst thing you could possibly do against Randy Costa.
Right. Stings you with the right hand.
Yeah, man. So I really think that Costa is going to get a first round KO with an overhand or straight right. It's just going to go right through the guard of Newson. He keeps his left hand way too low. That right hand's going to connect.
So I got that listed here. Costa's right hand is something serious, man. And after he throws the right hand, he throws that left high kick with some force, man. It is coming behind every combination. And if Newson is not careful, I feel like it's the head kick that's going to land on him. But little split on that one, man. It's definitely an absolute firework of a fight, but I'm actually going to lean toward Newson here, and the reason is I think he's obviously way more patient, but I think he is going I think he's going to let Randy blow his wad that first round, man, and I think he's obviously much more experienced over 15. You talked about all 5 of his wins, combined fight time of under 5 minutes. This guy is a first couple minute fighter, and after that, we really start to see his volume slow down. But Brandon Davis fight, you're talking about cardio king and Brandon Davis running 15 miles a day before making 35, and tough as it comes. So, Brandon Davis, I don't know if technically outside of Zabit's sub, I don't even know if he's been finished before. I mean, it's as tough as they come, and Randy really was putting it on him. But, man, being young, I don't know if Randy, I think if it gets dirty, man, I think Randy could quit. I haven't seen the killer mindset in him that I want to see in some of the young fighters.
Or just like the dog, like
yeah,
if it got
right. If it got dirty, if when the fight got dirty with the leg, and Brandon Davis's boxing started tearing up the body and stuff a little bit, which is what I really said Newsom really needs to do in that first round, is land a couple good body shots and let Randy Costa use some of that energy, because in the second round, granted the leg was super compromised, but the speed, the volume, the power, everything was really starting to fade. And if Newsom can withstand some of that, I like him to get it done by decision.
By decision. So I got one more thing about Costa. His stance is so wide and he's so heavy on that front foot. I think that's why the Davis leg kick really hurt him. I mean, he really needs to be heavy on that lead foot so that he could engage and disengage with quickness. I kind of compared him to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, where he's such a wide stance and he's able to close that distance so fast and then immediately jump back outside of kicking range. And with Journey Newsom coming in at 5'5", a 4-inch disadvantage, I think he's going to have some trouble finding that range. And good luck with trying to withstand Randy Costa's barrage of punches in that first round.
So it's a pick'em fight in my opinion. It really is. I think I think I said Journey Newsom by decision, but I think those whole 15 minutes are super exciting, especially that first round. The minus 135 for Newsom, I think, is a little too much. It definitely needs to be swayed down closer to a pick'em in my opinion, but I think people see Randy Costa still as just a little green.
And how could you not?
Right.
How could you not? And, I'm saying a lot of this with a lot of unknowns behind it. But from what I have seen, man, he's the most exciting 135er at the moment. And I really hope that he gets this done and kind of continues with that, kind of Alonzo Minifield type scariness about him.
Both of us before the podcast said, "What's your fight of the night?" And we both pointed to this one. So let's eliminate that one from our fight of the night, and we'll pick one later on tonight. But just for the record, that fight's going to be good, man.
Yes.
The next fight, we have Jessica Rose Clark, who's 9-6, fighting Sarah Alpar, who's 9-4. And man, this fight, I don't really have too much to say about it. They really haven't given us interesting girls' fights on this fight card. You got Jessica Rose Clark, in my opinion, relies on her looks more than she does for her UFC career and stuff, but a pretty girl and stuff. She's got 2 losses to Pannie Kynard and stuff, but best wins probably coming to Beck Rollins or Paige Van Zandt, and neither girl in the UFC anymore and stuff. So, like I said, relies on the beauty a little bit more, but she got good knees in the clinch. She really does. She can lock girls up in the tight clinch and lend some knees, but man, the home burglary and the invasion that she had really, really took a toll on her mental health. So got in there, tore her house apart, and man, even killed her cat and everything. So she mentally not really the Jessica Rose Clark that we want to see, but hopefully that's a little bit behind her, because she's got a good girl in Sarah Alpar coming off the Contender Series and stuff. She was an underdog on the Contender Series and got the win, and she's going to be coming in as an underdog here again. And she has good wrestling, and we've seen Clark get taken down and stuff before, so I don't really care too much about the fight. I'm going to go Jessica Rose Clark by decision, but I think we see Sarah Alpar take her down and maybe win one of the rounds.
The more I look at this fight, the more I'm starting to lean towards Alpar. I really, here's a couple of things working against Jessie Jess. She's on the L2. She does not do well at 135. I think that she's definitely got a losing record at 135, and most of her wins are at 125. But she had so many weight cutting issues that she just couldn't do it.
Right.
Now that being said, Jessica Rose Clark, she has a 4-inch reach advantage, which is substantial, especially in women's MMA.
Right.
But Alpar, she's fighting upper echelon competition, and she's on a 3-fight win streak with those 3 opponents coming with a combined record of 19-3.
Impressive.
For women's, that's that's really impressive. So them both coming off that 1 year layoff, Alpar kind of coming in with momentum and everything else. Man, I like her at 186 at a plus 186.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad play as well on Sarah Alpar's part. Like I said, I could really probably see her taking Jessie just down, making it like a Roxanne fight, making it boring, and taking Jessie's tools away from her.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And like I said, at that plus 186, shoot, I might sprinkle a little bit on that. It's a girls' fight, so
it is, man. So I think officially, for me, I'm going to lean toward Jessica Rose Clark, but man. It's way closer than those odds say.
There's some definite paths to victory, for Alpar. Okay, so next one, Jordan Espinosa, 15-7, fighting David Dvorak, and this is another flyweight bout. Now Espinosa, his last fight was at bantamweight, and it was against Mark De La Rosa.
Right.
It's a huge win. I mean, that's a pretty big win right there. He does have 4 losses by sub, which. It's something worth noting if he only has 7 losses. Obviously, he has some problems with submission defense. Where Dvorak, he's on a 14-fight win streak. Insane.
Hot as it comes.
Yeah, as hot as it comes. He's got the momentum coming into this. When I watched his fight against Bruno Silva, I think he lost that fight. And I think that if you watch the reaction to him getting the decision win, he knows he lost that fight. So maybe a little bit too close, and I'm thinking that he's going to come in guns a-blazing this one because he just didn't perform like he wanted to in that last one. Of Dvorak's 18 wins, 15 of them are by finish.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of splits them up where it's like 7 by sub and 8 by KO. So I expect him to come out here guns a-blazing. He has a really good takedown defense. He's got really good sprawls, and he has decent knees in the clinch. This one being flyweight, I do see it going to decision, even though he has 15 of his 18 wins by finish. I think Espinosa will be able to kind of tough it out. I do lean towards Dvorak, but it's another one. I wouldn't bet on this.
Yeah, so close, super, super close fight for me. Jordan Espinosa, coming off the Contender Series, was a guy that I was honestly pretty high on for the flyweight division. He's super, super athletic. He came in there, got the job done by a first-round sub on the Contender Series, and then took out my tough sleeper and Eric Shelton right after that. And he's super, super well-rounded, and he's very, very athletic and uses the wrestling very good. And one thing we've seen with Jordan is tested over 15 minutes. And then you've seen, Dvorak over here, like you touched on, finishing 15 of his 18 wins. We haven't seen him that much over 15 minutes, and Jordan Espinosa really does like to put a pace on people. That being said, you touched on the 14-fight win streak and the 15 of 18 wins. I think he finishes those for a reason, man. We've seen Espinosa make plenty of mistakes on the mat and get himself subbed by Matt Schnell and stuff. Dvorak's got great submissions, and he has got the wrestling to match it, the forward pressure to match it. I really think Dvorak, he needs to clean up some of the sloppiness because his takedowns are super sloppy, but Espinosa at the same time is not somebody that I feel like is going to be able to counter one of those sloppy shots and really take advantage of it. Both these guys, super, super well-rounded. But I think I'm going to lean toward David Dvorak being just a little bit more well-rounded than Jordan is. A little bit more killer instinct in there than Jordan is. He loves to go for the finish, something I love to see in flyweights. I like David Dvorak to get a sub on Saturday night.
Okay, I like that. I don't mind that at all. If it wasn't the sub, then it's decision, like I said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next fight here, man, another one I probably won't spend too much time on, but it is Mayra Bueno Silva, who's 8-1, fighting Mara Romero Borella, who is 12-8. So Mayra is she has got an absolute sick guillotine, man. She on her Contender Series, she snatched up what's modified guillotine, ninja choke, whatever you call it, man. She slept the girl. She put her straight to sleep and just dropped her on her knees and stuff. It was cold, man. It was awesome. But younger, more aggressive fighter. These two girls are just in different points in their career, in my opinion. She's got a 12-8 record for Borella, but she's like 34 years old or something. She is definitely on the way out. Lost 4 of her last 5, and for a woman, man, she's been TKO'd multiple times. So the chin is really not there for her. Mayra, a super good win, man. Roberson. Gillian's I think she might have just lost a fight, but outside of that, she had won like 3 or 4 of her last couple fights. Like, Gillian Robertson really had some success late, and we've seen Mayra, beat her. I just think, like I said, 2 different points in their career. We're seeing Borella really, really fighting for her job here. I think if she loses, she's out of the UFC. And I think Mayra is going to probably sub her on Saturday or probably win a 30-27. Pretty unanimous decision.
So, totally agree. You touched on the Gillian Robertson fight. Mm-hmm. She got armbarred, and Silva armbarred Gillian Robertson, and 4 of her 6 wins are by sub, where Borella, her last loss is coming by armbar to Courtney Casey. So that's how I see it getting done. Now, this being a women's fight and how the last ones have gone, a minus 233 for Silva does not interest me at all, but I would be curious to see what that sub line is.
Yeah.
Because that's how I see it getting done. I think Borella, like you said, she's 34 years old. She's on her way out and losing 4 out of her last 5. I don't see much upside for her. I do see Silva getting this done, but again, only if the sub line is plus 300 or better.
Right. Absolutely. So in agreement that we see Silva winning that fight, either probably by decision or by submission there. But one thing we also can agree on is Borella's probably on the way out if she gets this one. And what we've seen, over the last couple of weeks, stay away from those 2 and 3-1 dog odds on the ladies' fights.
For sure.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, we've got Mirsad Bektic at featherweight versus Luis Eduardo Garagorri. So Garagorri, 13-1 coming into this fight. Is this his UFC debut?
No. So his UFC debut, he gets the co-main event to UFC Uruguay, which was the Shevchenko and Carmouche fight.
Oh,
so
okay.
Freaking makes his debut. It's in Uruguay, which is where he's from. So hometown, they gave him the co-main event. And honestly, one of the loudest crowds I've ever seen when some guy walked out. It was nice, but he doesn't impress me too much, man.
Well, so 10 of his 13 wins are by KO or sub, and he's got those split evenly. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that he's a finisher and at almost 4-1 underdog odds. I don't mind that at all, especially considering Bektic. He's on a 2-fight skid. Now, given those are to Josh Emmett, who is, at that time was KOing everybody, and then Dan Ige, who's, looked good in the UFC.
Yeah, until the Calvin Kattar fight was on a hot streak.
Right. But other than that, Mirsad Bektic, his last win was against Ricardo Lamas in 2018 by split decision. So he's not, he's not coming into this hot at all. And, looking back on it, that was when Mirsad Bektic against Darren Elkins is what made me a fan of Darren Elkins.
You have to touch on that fight. You can't even mention Bektic's name without mentioning that fight.
And so, just looking back on that, he wears. By the 3rd round, he's done. Mm-hmm. So, I like that. There's one more thing I like about Bektic. He trains at TriStar, so he's getting work in with GSP, Arnold Allen, and Kevin Lee. Those are good guys to be training with. Right. But that being said, I think he's another one who he's kind of on his way out. Maybe he's 6-3 in the UFC since entering in 2014, and 2 of those are coming in his last 2 fights. Yeah. So he definitely should pick it up here if he wants to maintain his spot in the UFC. But this is a really tough guy to come in and try and beat him, just being so hot right now. I know he's coming off the loss to Ricardo Ramos, but I like the finishing
ability.
The finishing ability, especially at the 4-1 dog odds. Yeah. I think that not that I'm going to bet it, but I might sprinkle $10 on it and try and win 40.
So maybe a little bit different, breakdown of that. I personally, like I said, you can't mention Bektic without mentioning him gassing and getting head kicked or whatever there by Darren Elkins. But I'm still, when it comes to Bektic fighting Garagorri, I'm still high on Bektic, man. Bektic has been in there with guys that, Garagorri can't hold a torch to, in my opinion. The Uruguay co-main event spot he got, super, super close fight, man. He was supposed to win that fight, and it was very, very close. Garagorri can't wrestle. Bektic is going to have an absolute field day out there, in my opinion. I think it's going to make so many people money on DraftKings. I think he's going to have more than 6 or 7 takedowns. I really do think that Bektic, I don't know if he's going to get the finish because he's not much of a finisher himself. But, man, you got Darren Elkins and stuff, and Dan Ige as well. Both of those guys are scrappers, man. You're not putting them away. They're going to be there for 15 minutes, as tough as they come. And Bektic kind of just wore himself out with the takedowns. I have a comparison here of Bektic. He reminds me of Meerschaert, the machine Wally, or however, just not the cardio that he's got. He relentlessly chases the takedown, and like I said, man, I think he's going to have a field day with Garagorri here. I think the takedown's going to come really easy for him. Maybe get a submission win, but I actually like him to get a 10-8 round on Saturday.
So, odds tell us that. And I think that I would lean to Mirsad Bektic getting the dub, but I love the price tag of Garagorri.
Yeah. So, price tag on Garagorri, absolutely, man. You can make some money on that if he pulls it off. But Bektic is the guy that I actually have parlayed with Andre Ewell in my parlay. So,
that seems like a sketch parlay right there.
I think stylistically, like I said, much better kickboxer against Erwin Rivera, who's flat-footed, and a guy who's going to have a field day when it comes to the takedowns. I like 2 dominant decision wins in that parlay.
One other thing I don't like about Garagorri is he trains out of a gym that he owns.
Yeah.
He's not getting the GSP Arnold Allen, Kevin Lee to be training with in
Absolutely.
and out. So, like I said, for the price tag, I like him, but I do expect Bektic to get it done. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And to start off one of the best main cards of the entire year, man, you put a title fight on it, and this is a pay-per-view, absolutely. Kevin Holland, 18-5 versus Darren Stewart, who's 12-5, and it's funny that we got Kevin Holland saying he wants to yeehaw up and be the company man, and he's fighting on the same card as Donald Cerrone. So pretty cool, I'm a big fan of Kevin Holland ever since taking the debut against Thiago Santos and making that fight close while it lasted. This shit talking, everything about him, it's hard not to like. It's hard not to like him. Big question here is, did he quit smoking the weed like he said he was going to, man? Did he really stick to it? He's making his third walk of 2020, and in my opinion, man, his last fight against that Buckley guy was nuts, man. I've never seen anybody in the UFC, maybe besides Anthony Johnson, throw the kind of heat that Buckley was throwing at him, and he was Wing Chunging that shit, man, throwing it to the side. I could never be that calm in the pocket.
No, I remember us talking when that fight was going on. We were comparing Buckley's strikes to Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
we said,
for sure, man. Buckley is. That was super scary, man. And he was just as calm as could be in the pocket, And that right hand, he stung him with it, man. He doesn't have to load up on it. He's got incredible reach, and he's gonna have a big size advantage over here with Darren Stewart. And Kevin Holland is somebody that we see constantly really use that size very well. He's also a legit brown belt, man, under Travis Lutter. He's got some ridiculous jiu-jitsu skills, man. And Darren Stewart is, started the UFC run 0-3, man, after a ton of hype, and finally, starting to get that consistency to him. He's also making his third walk in the UFC. But man, he struggles with good wrestlers. Not that I think Kevin Holland's going to go out here and wrestle him by no means. But if Kevin Holland decides to grapple at all, he's a much superior grappler here. And one thing I just want to note, it's not really a knock to him, but he calls himself the dentist because he knocks people out. And man, he's knocked out Eric Spicely and Charles Byrd. Not people known for having chins. So I don't really see him coming out here and just knocking out Kevin Holland after what I saw him do with Buckley. The powers Darren Stewart brings, it doesn't worry me on Saturday.
So I'm with you. I think I'm taking Holland pretty easily, but something to note is Darren Stewart. The other guy, Bevon Lewis, who he fought, was also 6'3", so he's comfortable being in that, being in the octagon with somebody of that size. I think that he's seen it before and he's beat it before. So, Kevin Holland, although he is hot right now, you do kind of see him make some silly mistakes.
You do.
His fight IQ might not be all the way there, and he would rather get into a firefight than have a boring fight, and that might play to his disadvantage as the fight goes on. You talked about the Buckley fight. What about him kissing his hand before hitting it, man?
Just licking the blood, kissing it or something, and stung him with it. Dude.
Dirty as could be. His losses, they're all top notch. Yeah. Brendan Allen by rear naked choke, Thiago Santos, Curtis Millender, and Rafael Lovato Jr.
Besides the Curtis Millender who we've seen kind of drop off bad, those other three are almost as legit as it comes. Man.
Right. And
Brendan Allen's on an absolute tear.
Oh, he's killing it right now. And then not to mention his wins over Jeff Neal and Gerald Meerschaert, who's fighting on this card.
Yeah, we've seen Kevin Holland make 170 pounds before, and don't ask me how he does it. That boy could be fighting at 205 if he put some weight on him. Yeah. He's super long and rangy. But you touched on the Bevon Lewis, man. Bevon Lewis, Kevin Holland, little different styles. You see Bevon Lewis really with the almost Kamaru Usman approach, the grapple heavy up against the clinch and up against the cage, and I don't really see Kevin Holland do that. I feel like Kevin Holland is just more comfortable anywhere this fight goes. I think Darren Stewart's going to get submitted.
Darren Stewart by submission. So if he...
Not by... He's going to get submitted.
Right.
Kevin Holland's going to catch him with the guillotine.
So, old Stewart's coming off the guillotine finish by Maki. If Holland does end up on the ground, he's got to shoot for a takedown at some point. So he's got to worry about the guillotine that Darren Stewart possesses. And then, we talked about... I personally, I think you're right. He'll keep it standing. I think that he'll keep it standing. With an 81-inch reach versus a 74-inch reach, he should really think about utilizing that.
Right.
Similar to the Buckley fight, I think that he'd prefer to keep it on the feet and kind of just, go at it like that.
You going with Kevin Holland?
I am going with Kevin Holland. I think that there are ways that Darren Stewart could get this done, but I see Kevin Holland getting this done for sure.
Absolutely, man. And another interesting fight there for
Another interesting fight. Our girl Mackenzie Dern, who is 8-1, is fighting Randa Markos, who is 10-9-1. About as spotty as a record gets.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Dern, so she's coming off a first-round knee bar over Hannah Cyphers. Both of these girls have losses to Amanda Ribas.
Which, I texted you the other day. Did we read too much into that Mackenzie Dern loss to Amanda Ribas? We kind of gave her some shit for it, but she was coming off having a kid, and Ribas has looked good late.
For sure. I think one of the biggest things to note about Dern is she always has her BJJ to fall back on.
Right.
But she has so many holes in her game before that it's like... she has an overhand right finish, but it was lucky that it landed. Yeah. She threw about 40 of those before it did land. So, I see a lot of holes in Mackenzie Dern's game, and that's probably why we're seeing her at just a -160 against a girl who's got a 500 record.
Right.
I think that she has struggled in the past to make that 115-pound weight cut, and I was kind of worried about it until I saw her posting her pictures online. She is in the best shape of her life by far. And then also she's training at Black House with Loyota Machida and Brian Ortega. So, she's going to be sharpening those tools on the ground for sure. And then maybe she's learning something striking-wise. I lean towards Dern, but Markos has surprised me before. She's got a win over Angela Hill and Carla Esparza. Those are, you have to take that into consideration. She's kind of like Roxy, where she wins one she's not supposed to, and then loses ones that she is supposed to. She's supposed to win.
I texted you, I think the other day. This woman has alternated wins and losses since 2014, and she's due a win here. So if she loses, this will be the first time in her career she's ever lost 2 fights in a row. Stars are lining maybe for Randa Markos to get this done, because in terms of betting, it's super, super interesting in my opinion, because Mackenzie Dern has so much hype, and I'm glad to finally see her at only a -160, because she's not that big of a favorite on some of these girls. You touched on the holes she has in her game. She's got that BJJ to fall back on, but man, she reminds me of Damian Maia. She almost struggles to get that takedown sometimes, and without a doubt the striking is not up to par with some of these other girls. That being said, man, Markos doesn't really worry me with the striking. She has smart wrestling like Carla Esparza does. She takes you down end of rounds. And in my opinion, I just don't think Mackenzie Dern is some girl that you want to play that offensive wrestling game with. When if we've seen, as soon as it hits the mat, Dern pulls a sub on these girls, and I really do feel like that's Markos's game plan, is to smart wrestle, to like to control the last 2.5-3 minutes of the round with the takedown. That being said, man, Markos 10-9 record. There's 4 of those girls, maybe 5 of those girls that are not in the UFC. The other 14 or 15, they're all still in the UFC, held titles, fought for titles. Markos has fought way, way better people than Mackenzie Dern, but I'm really worried, just because her game plan in so many of these other fights is kind of negated by, the skill that Mackenzie offers on the ground. And,
to touch Randa Markos, she has been subbed in the past by not as good submission artists. Armbarred by Courtney Casey and Kimura by Rose Namajunas. Rose is top notch, but, at the time, Rose was still pretty green, and she got that sub win.
So I'm not going to be honest with you. If Randa Markos comes out here and gets it done, my jaw's not going to be on the ground. I won't be too shocked at it, but I am going to lean with Mackenzie Dern. Probably, I mean, it's hard to not play her by submission, man, you know?
Right, and I would say that the odds are going to reflect that whenever we look at them. At a minus 162, what do you think the sub would be? Almost even money?
Probably even money, and like I said, a fight that I'm going to stay away from as far as money. But if I was to put money, I really do think Mackenzie probably does get the sub.
I also lean towards Mackenzie.
Man, really the meat of this main card where the exciting fights start to happen, man. We got the number 10 light heavyweight and Johnny Walker fighting the number 13 light heavyweight and Ryan Spann, and this is a super, super fun fight for me. One, I don't see it going to decision. I think we just saw Johnny Walker go to one of the first decisions he's really ever gone to with that Nikita Krylov fight, but he showed more patience in that fight than he had in a lot of other fights. He had like a historic run almost, those first couple fights that he had. The knockouts of Khalil Roundtree in the clinch with the elbows, the knee of Serkinov. I mean, Johnny Walker had probably more hype in 2019 than almost anybody in the UFC. And
I remember a couple of our Chris mentioning that he thinks that he'll give John Jones a run for his money in 2019.
Absolutely. He was hyped up beyond belief, and Corey Anderson came out there and absolutely exposed it. He called it, man. Like he said, he was going to hit him with the overhand right, and he did it in the first round. But what we saw there is Johnny Walker's a tough son of a bitch, man. You really got to put that boy out, either by landing 25 right hands or choking him out, man, because Johnny Walker is tough, and he's going to be in your face throwing the most awkward, unorthodox strikes you've ever seen. And, man, if Sam Alvey makes you gun-shy, Johnny Walker's definitely going to make you gun-shy. I don't know what we're going to see in Spann here. The last fight against Alvey really, I wouldn't say derailed my hype train for him, because I know he's super good, and he's going to be a prospect that's around for a long time, but I know Alvey offers power, man, but not power like Johnny Walker or any other people he's going to be facing. And to see him so gun-shy and stuff, it really worried me. This fight makes no sense in my opinion. I know they're in rankings-wise. The fight makes zero sense in my opinion. You've got Spann, a really, really hot prospect right now, not lost in the UFC. And you got Johnny Walker, who is on an L2. You damage both of these guys' careers here with the loss. You put Walker on an L3 after being the most hyped guy of 2019, and you give Spann, his first loss when, you probably could have padded it a little more and brought him up a little more slowly for both of these guys, in my opinion. So the fight, it kind of damages both of these guys' career with the loss.
I would agree, other than the fact, if I was looking at it from Spann's perspective, I would think, all right, I see Johnny Walker, who has all this hype, and now we have a game plan of beating him in the last two fights. So I guess I see it from Ryan Spann, although he's not going to jump in rankings. He definitely... I think that if he were not fighting Johnny Walker, he'd probably be on this prelims.
Yeah, and you're probably right, man. I touched on how I was high on Ryan Spann, and, man, the reason I say that is he lost in the Contender Series to Carl Roberson by like a first-round elbow that he got caught with, and it put him away. Man, went straight back to LFA, 3 first-round finishes in a row, comes back on the Contender Series, and doesn't leave no question marks, man. You love to see that in a young guy. He takes advantage of the second opportunity and stuff. So I really do like the mindset. He trains out of Fortis MMA, which is a really good camp. But he just saw his old boy Alonzo get KO'd and stuff. So I know he's probably a little bit worried and stuff because Johnny Walker brings, like I said, the most unorthodox strikes you've seen. Yeah,
and you kind of touched on this. He's very sloppy, but his athleticism kind of makes up for everything that he lacks in technique. What I've noticed is whenever he gets tired, he really puts his hands down, and it seems like he has trouble carrying all that muscle that he has. At 6'6", 82-inch reach, I was thinking, he's got to be top 3 as far as size and reach in that division. Well, Ryan Spann's right there with him at 6'5", 80-inch reach. Cool fun fact, Spann used to fight at 170.
Wow.
When I saw that, I was like, no way. But yeah, his first fight actually was at 170.
That's like Rumble Johnson, man.
Right? And Rumble's not 6'5".
Right.
But he's fought at 170. He's a former 185er. That's where he spent a good chunk of his career. And then he's finally found that success in the light heavyweight division. You mentioned the Carl Roberson fight. that's exactly how I see this fight going down. I see Ryan Spann wanting to close the distance and kind of do what Nikita Krylov was doing, where he was able to kind of hold him up against the cage and eventually get it to the ground. Well, I don't think Spann is as technical as Krylov is, especially when it's getting the fight to the ground. And he has a problem with being comfortable sitting there on the takedown and having his head exposed. And I think Johnny Walker, with his length, he's going to be able to get over to the side and start throwing elbows, and I think that's going to knock Ryan Spann out. That is how I see it happening. Spann shooting for the takedown.
Wish we could catch some odds on that.
Oh my gosh, dude. And Johnny Walker, he's good for it too. Yeah. I think that Ryan Spann, gun shy against Sam Alvey, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach.
And just as slow striking as it gets.
Right, and so now you're going to jump up to a guy who's bigger than you are and more athletic.
Flying you before you even blink.
Right. It's I see it happening. I see Spann shooting in for the takedown, getting caught with those elbows, and a Johnny Walker KO finish.
Nice, man.
Moving on.
Yes, sir.
This is the hottest prospect of 2020.
Yes, it is.
If Walker was 2019, this is 2020. Khamzat Chimaev, 8-0 versus Gerald Meerschaert, who's 31-13, a true veteran of the sport. So I'll touch on Gerald just a little bit. He's 2-4 in his last 6. His losses against Heinisch and Anders, the Anders one is the one that sticks out to me, where I'm like, you should be winning that fight. I love you, boy, but
he's a football player.
He's a football player. Yeah, he's like we
love him, but he's a football player.
Right. No disrespect, but Gerald Meerschaert, 23 wins by sub. He's going to be a great test for Chimaev. Really, the only path to victory that I see is similar to Paul Craig, Magomed Ankilov, where he gets just pulls it out of his ass submission.
Last couple seconds.
Right, when Chimaev is just thinking that he's going to coast out the round or whatever. Chimaev, on the other hand, he's training with Alexander Gustafsson and E.R. Latifi. So you got one of the best strikers that are bigger than you, and E.R. Latifi, who's one of the best wrestlers, who's also bigger than you. And I would bet money that he's giving them all that they want in their training. So he's not. It's not going to be like him being at 185 instead of his true weight class at 170. Gerald Meerschaert isn't going to be that much bigger or that much different than what he trains with. And I sent you that clip of Chimaev standing up, where he threw the leg kick and uppercutted that dude. Well, that dude's a Sambo combat champion, 8-0 going into that match, and Chimaev starched him. Yeah. I going into this, I had never seen a fight of his other than the 2 that he already had against Reese McKee and John Phillips.
Yeah, something Phillips.
So I thought that he was a straight wrestler, and that's all that he would do. But damn, after seeing that clip, I'm like, all right, so this dude can do it all. He's legit as it gets. From what I can tell, he's every Russian that's ever been in the UFC. Just miles and miles ahead of his competition. Yeah. And then we got to touch on him outstriking his last 2 opponents, 83-1. I mean, it's one of the very few fights where you're ever going to see that type of domination in the UFC.
Yeah, man. So you touched on just about everything that I want to say about GM as well, man. For last 4 of his last 6 fights, he's lost super slow on the feet, man. He is. I really think the age and stuff is starting to catch up with him. Those fights are starting to catch up with him. Because, man, everything he throws is starting to slow down, in my opinion, and be seen from a mile away. Or Khamzat, man, the left high kick or right high kick, I think it was a left high kick he threw right before he shot on John Phillips, man. That was quicker than anything GM is ever going to throw. And I mean, I love Khamzat. I know I see it over there. Khamzat inside the distance at -210. Play it all day, man. I mean, that's almost a max play for me, man. I really like Khamzat to get it done inside the distance and at -210. That's very much playable in my opinion. Hottest prospect of 2020, man. It's crazy to see a guy dominate at 2 divisions like this, a double booking and stuff. And you talked about when he goes up to 185, he doesn't give up any size, man. No. He does not give up any size to anybody, which is crazy. One thing I like about him, people compare him to the, Khabib and how he picked that guy up, dropped him in his corner like Matt Hughes did and stuff, man. he is so active on the mat. It's not lay and pray, look for the sub. It is, I'm going to pound you into the canvas, and that's what I love to see, man. I love ground and pound. The biggest question mark, I mean, it's the cardio. You know, have we seen him outside of past a little over 2 rounds, like, you know, a minute into 2 rounds or something like that? You know, we haven't seen it. So GM is a tough SOB, man. It's going to be a little tough to get out of there. I'm not going to lie. The cardio is the biggest question mark for him. But, man, outside of that, he's got all the tools to be a champion, man. What a time right now to have him in the UFC, man. We really need him with all the stuff that's going on and everything. I love watching him fight.
I see a lot of skepticism online of jumping on this hype train, but I am not skeptic at all. I'm riding it all the way.
I'm really not either, man. Yeah, not many people that I will jump the gun on quick, but Khamzat's definitely one of them, and I know we're in agreement that he gets this one done and it doesn't see the judges on Saturday. And, man, another super fun fight, man. Battle for who's had the worst eye injury in the UFC. You know, man, both these guys are as tough as they come. You got Donald Cowboy Cerrone, 36-15, fighting Niko Price, who's 14-4. Cerrone staying at 170 after the fight to Pettis. I don't like that. I don't like people who just go back and forth, especially at the tail end of their career like that, man. You can't get inconsistency over it, you know, and he's riding an L4. I mean, outside of the Pettis loss, I mean, that's the best 3 lightweights in the world, you know, outside of Khabib and stuff. It's the best 3 lightweights, and it's somebody Cerrone would never beat in his entire, you know, no matter what point he is in his career. Cerrone's not getting any of those wins. I bet on him on the Pettis fight, man. He didn't have the crowd. You know, it wasn't a Conor fight. I didn't feel like the nerves were going to be there. I thought Cerrone was going to come and perform, and he didn't, man. That being said, he's taken steps down in competition before. Not that Niko is a big step down in competition, but he's taken step downs with Mike Perry, with Alaquinta, with John McDessie, Miles Jury,
Alexander Hernandez,
and he's finished every single one of them. So, I mean, Cerrone is a dog, man. I don't see Cerrone giving up in a fight. People give him shit for the Conor fight. Dude, his nose got shattered with those elbows, and he took a head kick, man. Like, Conor was raining baseball bats down on him. Like, I don't think that he gives up easy. I'm a big fan of Cerrone. But he is a journeyman, in my opinion. A lot of people stepping stone to the title. I think the title's always going to elude him. I don't think he'll ever get to it, and the career is really starting to taper off for him. So, got great Muay Thai, man. He throws great body kicks, so he'll switch that up to the head kick. You really don't know what Cerrone's going to throw at you, and I think that's going to give Niko Price some trouble. That being said, man, Niko is, you know, just guns a-blazing forward, you know, throwing stuff like Johnny Walker at you, you know, and Donald Cerrone does not do good with pressure, especially when you bring it on early.
So I also bet on Pettis in that fight. Donald Cerrone coming off of 3 losses, it's almost a guarantee that he's going to win that next fight, and him losing that one to Pettis really made me think, well, okay, his career actually is coming to an end this time. You know, we've seen it where we thought that was the case, you know, in 2016 with Alexander Hernandez, and then, you know, a couple more times where he dips a couple fights, but then he comes back strong.
Right.
He's the same Donald Cerrone as ever. He's 6-6 at 170, and his 6 wins really aren't that notable. I think he has 1 win that is pretty good. It might be to like RDA or.
No, man, at that 170, it's, you know, Rick Story, Matt Brown, Patrick Cote. It's
all people coming on the tail end of their career.
Niko Price.
No, it's really not, and. You know, Niko Price, something that I noted is he does really well against tall, skinny fighters. His last 3 wins against guys like that, James Vick, Tim Means, Randy Brown.
Yeah.
Those are guys that all emulate some type of Cerrone, like stylistically, kind of emulate his body style and everything else. You know, Niko, his kryptonite would be heavy punchers. If you're not Vicente Luque, Al Hassan, or Jeff Neal, you know, I don't see you getting it done against Niko Price.
No, Niko has a trouble with the left hook really bad. I don't want to say he's Michael Bisping or nothing, but I don't think he sees it coming, man. Niko really has trouble with that left hook. But Donald doesn't throw a left hook. Donald throws the straight down the pipe and stuff and works the body. And doesn't really have the power that any of those guys that you just said that we've seen put Niko out. You know,
100%.
Man. You know, you called the Johnny Walker with the elbows, man. My hot take of the night right here. We've seen Niko do it multiple times, man. People throw a kick at him, and he counters it with that right hand. Super good. He put Alan Joban out with it. And we've seen Cerrone throw that leg kick and get caught with that right multiple times in the fight with with Jorge Masvidal. Man, he throws the kick and he leaves himself open for that overhand right. And that's my hot take, man. I really think Niko's is gonna catch him with an overhand right. That's gonna put Cerrone away. I like Niko inside the distance on Saturday.
Ooh-wee. I'm kind of going back and forth on this. Whenever I see Donald Cerrone at a underdog, I'm like, swipe it up now, swipe it up now. But like we touched on, that Pettis loss really put a sour taste in my mouth on betting on Cerrone anymore. And if he loses this fight to Niko, it'd be tough to justify Cerrone continuing his career on an L5.
Oh, I'm right there with you, but like I said, I don't think Cerrone ever quits in a fight. But Niko is way more willing to let this fight get dirty than Cerrone is.
Right, and that shows in the Luque fights that he has.
Who you got him, man? Got to make an official pick.
Dang it. I'm gonna go with Price as well.
Okay.
I think that he is gonna get it done. Although I'm not like totally confident on it, and I think that these, especially with Cerrone on the L4, he's due for a win.
Absolutely.
He's due for that Cerrone win. So I'd like to see him more at pick'em odds, which makes me want to bet Cerrone, but I'm not gonna bet him. I'm not gonna bet Niko either. I'll pick Niko, but
so I'm not betting either one of these because part of me thinks Cerrone is twice the technical fighter that Niko is, and he's gonna do what he did to like Yancey and just pinpoint him with that right hand. But the other part of me says Niko's just going to be in his face, and Cerrone doesn't like that.
No, not at all. All right, maybe the most highly anticipated fight of the year for me.
Yeah, definitely up there for me, man. Anytime he fights.
Anytime.
Our boy
Colby Covington.
Yes, sir.
15-2, fighting Tyron Woodley, who's 19-5-1. Let's see. I'll touch on Woodley first, okay? Woodley, he's 9-4 in his UFC career, and he's lucky he got the belt when he did.
Yeah.
He was facing people who were kind of on the tail end of their careers or coming off of fights that they got, took a lot of damage in. The Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler.
And Carlos Condit right after that.
Right. So I feel like he got, not gifted, but he was lucky to get the competition that he did to get that title shot. Now he's 38 years old. You got to think that he's on the tail end of his career with an L2 and being 0-10 in his last 10 rounds.
Right.
In the Kamaru Usman fight, it seemed like he was timid to throw, and that was the problem. But then he goes out and fights Burns, and we see him throw a few times, but still it just looked like he doesn't have the necessary tools to combat somebody who's a heavy pressure wrestler. A couple of things working in Tyron's favor is the sports psychologist. He says that that's going to get his mind right and everything, but fuck, if you're not pumped up enough to fight somebody that you hate in Colby Covington and on an L2, like, what more motivation do you need? There's nothing for you to lose. You've been embarrassed your last 2 times out. What are you scared about?
Right.
Then now we move over to Colby Covington. Before the UFC, he was finishing people. He was really finishing people, and then he just kind of gotten to the point where the UFC was, thinking about cutting him because he wasn't exciting enough. So he beats Demian Maia and becomes this total asshole.
Right.
and now it's like, whether you hate him or love him, you're not missing a fight.
Right.
Yeah, you're not missing a fight. And he's got, 5 decision wins in his last 6 and then a loss. So it's like, in theory, he wouldn't be the most exciting fighter, but damn, he makes you want to watch him. Another thing is he's moved to a new gym. He's not making any friends with this new persona that he has.
Right.
So, now nobody wants to train with him. And from what I understand, in his new gym, the only fighter that he's training with that has UFC experience is 0-2 in the UFC. So I can't imagine him sharpening his skills from that Kamaru Usman fight. Not that he needs to sharpen his skills to beat Tyron Woodley. I got one more fact before I let you take over.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley has never lost against a southpaw. He's fought the likes of Kelvin Gastelum, Demian Maia, Robbie Lawler, and Darren Till, and got the best of all of them. I personally don't think that he's gonna keep that record with southpaws in this fight, but it is tough to not bet a little bit on an ex-champion that has an overhand right that Colby Covington is a little susceptible to.
Absolutely, man. So at one point in his career, you know how high I was on Tyron, and you guys still to this day give me shit about it. At one point, dude, Tyron, the necessary skills were there. He was a great wrestler. He had heavy power in his hands. And, I mean, he was facing guys like Damian Maia who really posed a really good submission threat. He fought Wonderboy twice who, I mean, he scratched Anthony Pettis' fight, and Wonderboy gives everybody troubles, you know. Right. And the fact that he was even able to land that right hand on Wonderboy, we've not seen that outside of the Pettis fight. And, Till as well, man. The championship run, in my opinion, much better than the championship come up. I do believe, you know, the gift to the belt was a little gift to him and stuff, but after the injury and being young. But, man, he gets discouraged easily. If he doesn't make the first round competitive, it goes downhill from there quick. Tyron has to land on Colby in the first round, and if he doesn't, I think he loses every other round after that.
His power starts to deteriorate after that first.
But it's all about the mindset of what we see Tyron here. He's 38. We mentioned the sports psychologist, but man, I don't know how much can be changed from a fighter at this point in their career. You know, it's really all about what mindset we see Tyron come in, and like I said, that first round is going to be huge for him because if Colby comes out here and dominates him, it's going to be another very dominant decision for Colby. Speaking of stats, though, you know, we just watched Colby Covington land over 500 strikes in his Robbie Lawler fight, and we've seen Tyron Woodley not even land that many strikes in his last 5 fights, or not even throw that many. I think not even land. I think it's throw that many in his last 5 fights. So I mean, Colby is exact person I've told you over and over again. If I was a fighter, that's how I'm fighting. It is relentless takedown. It is cardio through the roof. It's dirty boxing. It takes away every weapon that any fighter can absolutely have. When you put him on the fence, it literally negates any fighter's capabilities. You know, nobody has a finishing move off the you know, the canvas or off the cage and stuff. Anthony Pettis is the only guy that's going to do crazy stuff off the cage. So when you put somebody there, you take away every single weapon that they have. And I think that's what Colby does the best, better than anybody. That being said, man, you know, the blueprint's been laid out there on how to beat Tyron a couple times now. And Colby really just needs to stick to it, and I think it'll be an easy win. But I told you earlier in the week, Colby gets stuck in that pocket, man. He throws the jab, and he gets stuck in that pocket. He commits the hips before he commits the hands. And, you know, Darren Till, Wonderboy, they have that real karate feint style where they commit the hips before they do their hands. And Tyron has that nice pull counter with his right hand that people have ran into multiple times, man. He's put down good strikers, Wonderboy twice, and Darren Till, and Colby Covington doesn't have the striking of any of those guys. It's really going to, like I said, I know I've said it multiple times, man, if Tyron doesn't land on him the first round, it's going to be Colby with a 50-45 decision.
You talked about the blueprint of how to beat Woodley. If there was ever a person in the UFC that had a blueprint of how to beat Colby,
Usman just did it, man.
It's Masvidal.
That's true.
And with Woodley training with Masvidal has been his college roommate, has, you know, been in his corner. Colby's been in Masvidal's corner. They know all the ins and outs. And if somebody knows Colby's kryptonite, it probably is Masvidal. And now that they hate each other, I'm sure that Masvidal isn't holding back any of that information to Woodley.
I think the Usman fight is an excellent fight to look at on how to beat Colby. We really, you know, Colby's pace is unreal, but we really saw Usman put a stamper on that with the work that he did to Colby's body, man. He landed some good knees, and anytime it got close, man, he really dug to that body, and man, Colby was showing it, in my opinion. He showed it on the face. He showed it in later rounds as he kind of was slowing down a little bit, but man, I don't like to think Kamaru has just top-notch striking, and to get caught with that many straight right hands, to get the jaw broken. He was put on his butt, I think, twice in that fight. Man, you can't take that kind of power from Tyron.
I agree. I think that Kamaru's wrestling was so high that it negated Colby's, and that's why it stayed standing. Where this one, I don't think Woodley has.
That's what I was saying with the Minner fight and Laramie. It's two such good wrestlers that's always their game plan. It sometimes negates each other and stuff, and that's what we did see with Colby and Usman, and that's where we saw where Usman maybe was just a little bit better on the feet than Colby was. Maybe not better. Stuck to the game plan a little bit better.
Maybe, but realistically, man, I had it 2-2 going into the fifth in that Usman-Covington fight. And if Covington didn't have his jaw broke, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Colby might have walked away with that belt. I was to the point where, like, because I rewatched it, I could have felt like that was one of he didn't beat the champs. They were going to let Usman retain it, you know, and do something like that. But I'm super high on Colby Covington. The big question mark is going to be the new camp. You know, And, he's coming off his first big loss, man. And in my opinion, didn't handle it good. Running back there to the locker room and stuff as soon as it was done, talking to anybody and stuff. He didn't handle it as bad as some fighters did. But I don't know. He's always in the spotlight when it was doing good. But when something bad happened to him, he really wasn't wanting to be there to take it.
Well, you see it even right now. I haven't heard a single peep out of Colby Covington in the lead up to this fight, where we've seen Tyron be the more vocal one. Yeah, it's like it's so weird. I'm very curious as to how the press conference goes on Thursday. I mean, if Colby does keep his same attitude, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable. But if he tries to take like a back seat and be a little bit more humble, I don't like that.
I don't either.
I don't like that at all. I like it when Colby Covington hates you and he
gets in your head.
Yeah, it gets into your head.
Because Tyron's someone that I think you can easily get in his head.
I think so, especially him having to bring in a sports psychologist. It seems like he's a little vulnerable.
Yeah, man. So with the blueprint laid out already before in Colby Covington, the skills he possesses and the game plan he has, I really like him to get the job done. I don't think he finishes Tyron, but I think he gets a pretty dominant decision. Wouldn't be surprised if I saw a 10-8 in there somewhere.
No, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't be surprised if it made 15 rounds in a row that Tyron lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as far as fight of the night, we're going to keep that one out of the play that we both already talked about. For me, I'll go ahead and say it, man. It's going to be Cerrone and Niko Price. You can never put them two in a cage and not have an exciting fight. Both of those guys go out on their shield, or they usually, for the most part, get a finish themselves. Co-main event spot, Cerrone puts his back up against the wall, and Niko's never in a boring fight, man. I love that fight on Saturday.
I like that too. Mine's going to be in the light heavyweight division. I like Johnny Walker. I just want to see him knock out Spann, and I'd like to see Walker kind of get that momentum again. Right. He was one of my favorite people to watch, especially when he was hot. So I'd like for him to get that back. And like I said, I think he has the athleticism that once he kind of matures a little bit in his game plan, and maybe does become a little bit more patient, that it will start to see that work in his favor as he moves forward in the division. And I think Ryan Spann will give him that opportunity to really highlight his athleticism. I don't think Spann is as fast as he is.
I don't either, man. I don't either. That's going to be a fun fight. And as far as my fighter to watch, man, it's for me, it's Colby, bro. It's got to be coming off that first real big loss of his career in the spotlight with so much hype around that fight with Usman. To then with the new camp and stuff, I wonder how like I said, like you touched on how he was greeted there and stuff with this kind of persona that he's put on and stuff like that. I know he's, deep down when people talk to him, he's a good guy, but he's kind of had to put on an asshole front, like you said, in order to gain some steam. Man, I really like to see what kind of Colby we get here, and if he does go out here and dominates Tyron Woodley.
A fighter to watch is Kevin Holland.
That's who I almost took, man. Absolutely.
How can you not? He's winning a lot of fans here recently. He wants to fight anybody and everybody, and he doesn't care who it is. I think did you say on this one it doesn't really make sense him fighting Darren Stewart, or was that a different one?
That was a different fight.
One. Well, either way, I think Kevin Holland, you could have given him any name, and if he was like, if I can do it this month, sure. Yeah. And that's what I love about him. I just the way his energy that he's giving off right now, I think he's almost unbeatable at this point.
It is, man. So 14 fights on Saturday. I like the UFC is stacking this because we've not had the best of luck with all these fights making it to the fight night and all these people weighing in. So I like that they're stacking this heavy. Man, from top to bottom, it is an absolute killer card, and we're finally getting to see the return of Colby Covington and Tyron Woodley, most anticipated fight that we've talked about in a long time. And as always, man, we are doing that giveaway. We're still going to give away the UFC poster signed by Robbie Lawler and Matt Brown, as well as everybody else on that card. So make sure to get the subscribers to 100, and one of you guys will be getting that. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias and stuff. And be sure to check out Bet MMA on Saturday before the fights, man, to get you guys some bets in, because we're going for our fourth winning night in a row.
Heck yeah. One more thing. I really hope that we see the hatred come out in Covington and Woodley. That would really make this fight a little bit more interesting if we can see, Colby carry that on in this press conference coming up.
Absolutely. Hope you guys are making some money with us. Peace.
Peace.